Welcome to upgrading your broadband hamnet to version 1.0. Basically, you've probably come to this website looking for firmware instructions on how to upgrade it. First of all, let me apologize for the crackling audio. This is a new free program. Gotta love it. Anyway, so you've probably clicked the firmware instructions and you've gone to this page and you've seen, oh my gosh, look at all that information. And this information is very useful information. It's very good. But if you've done a bit of meshing before, you're just looking to basically get going, this is going to be the easy way to do it. I have basically started by connecting my router to the internet via the internet port directly from a wall connection, and also connecting a connection from the mesh node to my computer, and of course giving it power. Now there's some buttons on the front that you're going to see that are going to be flashing. You've got your power light, you've got your WLAN, your internet, and your Ethernet connection, and the DMZ light comes on. And that tells you that it's basically in the setup mode. Once the DMZ light turns off, then you can check your setup. This you can see is a previous setup, so what I'm going to do now is go and do local node, and this is how you get into it from before, local node :8080. And it's going to tell you it's redirecting to the status page, and if you don't get it right away, that probably means it hasn't finished loading up yet. And there it goes. Okay, so this one before was my KD5 HCV-3 mesh node, and you can see that the current firmware version is 0.4.3. Of course, we want to go to version 1.0. So click on Setup. It's going to ask you for your password, whatever yours happened to be for the previous mesh node. Type that in. And there you can see the mesh node is in this area here. It tells you your mesh node, your node type, and you can change your password. We'll fiddle with that in a minute. Go to Administration, and once you're there, this is the problem I had before, is uploading firmware from a file that I downloaded from the website. For some reason it didn't seem to work. It only worked on one of them, and that one it worked on was just because it was brand new. So the best thing to do is hit refresh since you have an internet connection. Hit refresh. That'll download all the firmware list, and now you can click on your select firmware and click the BBHN, which is Big Bend Hamnet -1.trx file, and then click download, and that is basically going to download the file straight into your router without you having to tell it where to go, what to do, making it quite easy. And when it's done, it's going to tell you to basically get ready to click a button once it reboots your router. It'll tell you to refresh it. Okay, now you can see it's come up with a message. The firmware is being updated. Do not remove power until it's finished. This is very important because you could basically screw up your mesh node and not be able to get it back, and that would make you sad. But basically your mesh node is now loaded in the firmware, and it's going to reboot, and your power light's going to flash and your DMZ light will be on. Once the power light stops flashing, as it says right here, when it stops blinking, the DMZ light will then turn off, and that may take a minute or two, and when it does, you'll click here. Okay, as you can see, my DMZ light has turned off, and now I'm going to click this button here, and it's going to reset the router to basically factory settings, as it were, for mesh node. It says no call, so what you need to go in and do is click Setup. It's going to ask you for your username and password. Of course, that's been reset to root, and whatever password you had may still be in there, but it is now HSMM. So you type that in, and you can get to here, and you'll name your node. So mine will be my call sign. That's not KD5%, that's KD5 HCV, and this is my -3 node. And then of course, if you need to, you can change your password to whatever you want it to be, and click Save Changes. And what that's going to do is it's going to save your node name and also save your password. Now it'll also probably come up and say, hey, you need to reboot because it's got a few changes. You got to get a new DHCP lease and reset any name services cache you may be using. So again, the same thing, wait for the power light to stop blinking, and then the DMZ light will turn off, and you'll click this. And my node DMZ light has turned off, so now I click local node again. It's going to try to redirect me. And sometimes it won't redirect you right away because of some reason or other. So the only thing to do at that point is to go to the back of your node, unplug the power, and replug it back in after a few 20-30 seconds or so, and just let it recycle, and then go back up to here and just hit enter again, and it'll reload the page, and it should come up right away. So as you can see, it says the connection is timed out. Now this may look frustrating at first, but don't worry about it. Basically go back up here, let's do it again. And as you can see, we have basically gotten back to our page, KD5HCV-3, firmware version 1.0. And of course you can go in and change in your other setups, your Wi-Fi scan, various other things, all the buttons that you have, you know, whichever. And it should work just fine. And now you've upgraded to version 1.0 on the mesh node. Congratulations.